Today is November 29th. Most people would consider this to be just a little too late in the mushroom season. I, however, consider it to be too cold. So why am I out here on this miserable, wet, late autumn morning? Well, the thing that most rational people do on days like this: looking for mushrooms for a terrible YouTube video. In the past two videos, I feel like I didn't really do that good of a job at talking about the mushrooms that I found. I just kind of pointed my camera at them and said, "Oh, that's a cool mushroom," and moved on. I've been doing a little bit of research, and this time I'm going to try my best at trying to identify at least the genre, or the subclass, if you will, of the mushrooms. I probably won't succeed though, so keep that in mind. So without further ado, let's get going. So you might be thinking to yourself that now that it's late autumn, there probably won't be as many mushrooms around here as the last time. Well, if you thought that, then you would be wrong, because there are actually a considerable amount of mushrooms around here. Way more than in the last two videos combined, probably. For example, in just this small area where I decided to start filming, there are mushrooms all over the place. In the first video, I was excited to see a small log of these polypore mushrooms. There's a small stump that is absolutely covered in them. There are also these mushrooms that are buried in the grass that you wouldn't see if you were not looking carefully. There are these mushrooms buried under this ivy, as well as these mushrooms that are scattered all over the place. Would you look at that? That is a beautiful shroom in the morning light. This definitely looks like a russula mushroom. It has brittle-like gills, and a good rule in trying to identify a russula mushroom is that the stem is usually not longer than the cap is wide, and this definitely applies to this mushroom. Russulas are usually bright colors, and as you can probably see, this is a beautiful violet color. A very nice start to our adventure. And directly next to that is this. So I'm just right here next to this beautiful, tall, elegant mushroom that I just found in the forest. As you can see, it is very large. I just pulled it very delicately out of the ground. If I were to guess, I would probably say that this is not an Amanita, because it has brown gills. Amanita mushrooms usually, if not always, have white or creamish gills, maybe pale yellow. It has a sticky cap that is covered in this slime-like substance. If I had to give my best estimate, I would probably say that this is a cordonarius mushroom, specifically a myxasium. They usually have long stem and are often sticky on the top, as you can see here. A defining characteristic of the cordonarius mushrooms is that they have rusty brown spores. As you can see on my finger, these spores are definitely rusty brown. Cordonarius is also the most common genre in North America, so this is likely that. This is a beautiful mushroom. It is very large. An excellent start to our adventure. Have a fungus. Have a fungus. Okay, so right next to what I think was the log from the very first episode is this little guy right here. This mushroom is a beautiful purple color, reddish purple. There seem to be quite a few of them growing in at this little spot here. Again, my best guess would be a russula mushroom, due to the fact that it is very small and brightly colored, and also very brittle. Russulas tend to be brittle instead of flexible because their cells are granular. There's a slug chowing down on this one right here, so I'm gonna put it down and move on. Right here we can see a young, beautiful bolete mushroom. It's kind of decayed and nasty. There are chomps bitten out of it. You can see the flesh on the inside is red. This mushroom kind of has a little bit of a sticky texture on the top, which tells me that it is most likely in the Suillus genus of mushroom. As mentioned in the last video, boletes are characterized by having small pores instead of gills. The spores come out of these pores and they get released into the air. A lot of bolete mushrooms are very choice edibles, but as you probably know by now, I'm not out here to eat the mushrooms because I'm still pretty rusty on identification. So let's continue. So I just cannot stress enough how many mushrooms there are in this forest here. If we saw back in September, the amount of mushrooms that we found in the first episode was pitiful compared to what we have here. Really goes to show you that the right time can play a very large role in the amount of mushrooms that you can find. Right over here are some beautiful, small, violetish mushrooms. These things are growing out of this dead wood right here, as well as all over in the foliage. Let me try to get this one here. Come on. God damn it. There we go. God damn it. It kind of resembles a morel mushroom, like a false morel, but this mushroom has gills, and I don't believe that morels have gills. The cap feels very velvety and soft, and the stem has almost this like scaly texture to it. It is very beautiful with this purple color, very dark purple color, and there are a lot of them out here. Let's move on. Dotting the landscape here, all over the place, are these little white mushrooms. They are just absolutely littering all over the place. They're spreading far and near. Right here is this beautiful set of mushrooms. They're kind of yellowish. Almost looks like the neon green mushroom that I found in the last video. It has that same color to it that you probably can't see in the video. So as you might be able to tell, I am just getting overwhelmed by the amount of shrooms here. And keep in mind, this is still just the beginning area right here. We still have this whole forest to go through. So what I think is the reason why I'm finding so many mushrooms here is because this is basically just the perfect habitat for wild mushrooms to grow in. It's very damp, it's away from direct sunlight. There are lots of trees around here, which I'm guessing a lot of these mushrooms like to grow in conjunction with. And also it definitely helps that it has been raining a lot recently, and it is just now when we're getting this beautiful sunny day. Kids, this is what a very old dried up mushroom looks like. It is all black and crusty. Yuck. Right here are some massive bolete mushrooms. You can see that this mushroom is almost basically as large as my hand. Not really. You can tell it's bolete because it has pores instead of gills, as always. I would almost say that this might be a king bolete. I don't really know. Probably not though. It is definitely gigantic though. You can hold it like this is a weapon. You You can kill people with this thing. There are 2 of them right here. There's another one growing in right there, and some brutalized ones right here. It has kind of a sticky cap, so I'd probably say this is in the Suilus genus. There's a guy with dogs over there. But yeah, this is a very cool fungus right here. This is a jelly mushroom. It doesn't have gills. It has very tiny pores that you can just barely see. I believe I found one of these in the first episode. Definitely a very unique shroom that I have found on this journey. Let's go. So, based on my experiences so far, I would probably say that the best time to look for mushrooms by far is November. All throughout the month of November, I saw mushrooms popping up all over the ground. And in September and October, in the last 2 videos, I was really, to be quite honest, kind of disappointed by the lack of mushrooms. But as you can tell here, there are substantially more mushrooms around here in November. So if you're planning on going out and doing a little bit of mushroom hunting on your own, I would definitely suggest you wait until November to really start expecting cavalcades of mushrooms. This is what happens when you live near an airport. I don't even know what that is. What makes that noise? Some really crappy helicopter up there. So I'm starting to see these mushrooms more and more. They pretty much look like what we saw at the very beginning of this video. Very large and formidable, resembling an Amanita mushroom. Have the yellow sticky caps, and they're just starting to appear everywhere. Definitely star of the show right here. So this right here looks like mold taking over a young bolete mushroom. Goes to show you that there's factional warfare even in the fungal kingdom of life. Epic! This mushroom right here looks very cool. I am suspecting that this might be an Amanita mushroom. Reason being, it has white gills. Well, whitish. It kind of looks like an off cream color now. The stem looks very delicate, as You can see I'm bruising it very easily. Kind of has a rubbery feeling cap, and unfortunately I failed to pull it up successfully as I ripped it. I would be able to tell that this is definitely an Amanita mushroom if it had a very distinct bulb at the bottom, but unfortunately my brain cells are diminishing. So kind of unfortunate, but hopefully we'll find another Amanita. Let's go. So coming up right here seems to be the very stump that I found in the first episode that had that beautiful gigantic polypore mushroom on it, but as you can see right here, it is now very old and grody. As you can see, it's definitely the same mushroom, but it has definitely seen better days. Mushrooms don't really last that long. Really, their only purpose is to spread the spores of the fungus, and not really much else. It is an absolutely beautiful day. I was totally not expecting this. I was told that it was going to be gray and rainy today. It's always nice to have a beautiful day like this, especially when you go mushroom hunting. So I guess that does it for this area. Now we'll move on to the next place. So I am back here again, and I'm going to attempt to go back into that field over there. If you recall, I tried to go there in the first episode of this mushroom series, but there was a homeless guy there. I'm really hoping that I can be able to take a look around in there, but there might still be a homeless guy there, so let's go see. Okay, so I'm coming up on this field here, and it does not look like there is a homeless guy here. Alexa, this is epic. And immediately you can see that there are mushrooms here all over the place. Let's take a look at this one. Oh yeah, this looks like a prime example of a bolete mushroom. Yet another bolete mushroom. This one looks completely yellow all around. That's very weird. It looks like there's like a little plant growing out of the rubble on the top of this mushroom. Very cool. Looks like these bolete mushrooms are all over the place, so we might be seeing a lot of those guys here. Oh my god. This might top the record for the biggest mushroom that I've found. Look at this. This is definitely the biggest mushroom that I have ever seen. Look at this shroom. This thing is just absolutely monstrous. This thing is definitely probably the biggest that I've ever seen. It is enormous. There are quite a few of them around here too. If I were to guess, I might say that this is related to those white meadow mushrooms that I found in the first episode. That consisted entirely the second half of the first video. As you can see, it has these brown gills that are very brittle. That is characteristic of the agaric genus. This thing is enormous. This is as big as my head right here. This is just absolutely enormous right here. So I guess let's continue. Let's go. If you have been watching my YouTube channel for a very long time, you may recognize this place where my buddies and I filmed the video How Not to Create a Nation. That video is absolutely atrocious and I recommend that you do not watch it. Anyway, let's continue looking, searching for the shrooms. And right here, we can see what looks like more of those small shrooms that I found earlier today. Apparently, these are very common. Has the same slimy, sticky cap on the top. Definitely a very elegant mushroom right here. This is the current state of the former glorious Socialist Republic of Vincinistan, formerly known as Maxistan, formerly known as a crappy field, and currently known as a crappy field. So now that it's getting close to winter here in the northern hemisphere where I live, the sun is getting very low in the sky, as you can tell right here. For example, the time currently is only about 2 o'clock p.m. and the sun is very low. It looks like it's almost like 6 p.m. or something. Anyway, let's go. So, to be quite honest, I'm actually a little bit disappointed by this location. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still plenty of interesting fungi to look at here, but last time I went here, there were a lot of mushrooms, like really cool mushrooms. I remember I found an Amanita muscaria while I was here with my friend once. I'll put a clip of that right there. But anyway, I was kind of expecting more from this place. Let's just keep looking. Would you look what we have here? This, ladies and gentlemen, looks like it is a false morel. This is a very strange fungus. It looks like a morel mushroom, but I think it's not edible or something like that. I'm not really sure. Seems to be quite a lot here, so this is definitely a very cool find right here. Very unique, very interesting, very cool, very cool. Well, well, well. Would you look what we have here? This, ladies and gentlemen, is Amanita muscaria. This is probably the most iconic mushroom in the world. And when I say in the world, I really do mean everywhere. This mushroom is in pretty much every culture. Characteristics of an Amanita mushroom are a bulbous base, which I failed to pull up properly, a slight ring around the stem, white gills, and a large flat cap. A lot of Amanita mushrooms are also very poisonous, including this one. Now, there are Amanita mushrooms that are not poisonous and are edible, but they're very few and far between, and they can often be very difficult to identify, and therefore aren't generally recommended for consumption. So if you find an Amanita mushroom like this, then just take a minute to appreciate its absolute beauty and walk away, because it is very poisonous. You can see here around the stem are remnants of a universal veil. This is a remnant of when the mushroom was very young. You see, Amanita mushrooms come from egg-like structures which eventually hatch, if you will. They grow out of it, and there's a universal veil that covers the mushroom. This is what all these white dots are. By the way, a lot of Amanita mushrooms have these dots around here. This is also what this large bulbous base is around the mushroom. So anyway, enough rambling. Let's continue. So these are agaricus mushrooms. You can tell because they are small, they have white caps and pink gills while young. As I said, these consisted entirely of the second half of the first episode of this mushroom series. But one thing that I forgot to mention because I didn't know at the time is that a good rule of thumb for these mushrooms is that if you bruise or cut them in a way, they will stain a color, and if they stain yellow very quickly, as you can see they are doing here, then they are a poisonous variant of the agaricus genus. A lot of agaricus mushrooms are edible. For example, the small white button mushrooms that you find in the store are members of the agaricus genus. But anyway, it is very late in the meadow mushroom season, so I was just kind of surprised to find these. Anyway, we have to move on. So, at this point, you're probably wondering why. Why do I care this much about mushrooms, of all things, as to make 3 20-minute videos about finding mushrooms in my local area? Well, the simple truth is that I guess I just have a knack for mycology. I've always found mushrooms to be very interesting, even back to when I was a kid. I remember drawing pictures of glowing mushrooms in the Game Notes app on the 3DS. You remember that? The Game Notes app on the Nintendo 3DS? What was I talking about? This is a very beautiful end to a very strange series of YouTube videos. I probably won't make any more of these mushroom videos in the near future, just because it is kind of nearing the end of the season, and I think that 3 is just a good number for a series of YouTube videos. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this series of mushroom adventures as much as I did. They were pretty fun to make, and I think at least in the far future, I'll probably make more of this. So be sure to leave a comment on this video so that I know that you exist, and I hope you have a great day. See ya.